If someone had told me a few years ago that one day 3 groundhogs would be running across my yard after me like little puppies, I probably would have laughed. But that is exactly what happens now. The moment Princess, Biggy, and Scar see me, they come running, each one trying to be the first to get close. They are playful, stubborn, and unbelievably picky about their food. But looking at them now, healthy and full of life, it is hard to imagine that all 3 of their lives began in a tiny nest where one baby had already died and their mother was gone. It all started when we discovered a small nest in our yard. Inside were several tiny baby groundhogs, far too young to take care of themselves. At first, we hoped their mother was simply out looking for food and would come back. But as we waited, something began to feel wrong. Then we discovered that one of the babies had already died. Not long after that, we found their mother dead in the yard. Suddenly, the 3 babies who were still alive had lost the one animal they depended on most. They were too young to find food, too weak to protect themselves, and completely dependent on a mother who was never coming back. Normally, we would have taken them to a wildlife rehabilitation center, but this was during the COVID pandemic, and none of the nearby facilities were able to take them in. After making call after call, we realized something that honestly scared me. If these 3 tiny animals were going to survive, we were going to have to care for them ourselves. To be honest, I had no idea what I was doing. The first thing I thought to do was drive to a farm supply store and buy kitten milk replacer. I came home with small syringes and started feeding them one at a time. Every feeding made me nervous. They were so tiny and fragile that I was constantly afraid I might do something wrong. For several weeks, our entire lives revolved around those 3 little groundhogs. We kept track of their feeding schedule, made sure they stayed warm, and constantly wondered whether they would make it through another night. Every little sign of progress felt huge. Then they started getting bigger. The syringes were replaced with bottles, and feeding became much easier. That was also when their individual personalities started to show. I quickly realized that even though they had come from the same little nest, these 3 groundhogs could not have been more different. Princess was the only girl, and she seemed to appoint herself the leader almost immediately. She was always the first one to investigate something new. If anything unusual happened, Princess was usually the first to go check it out. Biggy was completely different. He was gentle, laid back, and perfectly happy spending hours stretched out in the sunshine. But Biggy carried a scar on his stomach that we would never forget. It was a reminder of whatever had attacked their nest that night. One baby had already died, and Biggy had come dangerously close to dying too. Every time I see that scar, I remember just how close we came to losing him. The third one was somewhere in between. He was not as protective as Princess or as relaxed as Biggy. He had his own habits and his own little personality, but somehow the 3 of them balanced each other perfectly. Then one day, I realized they no longer felt like little animals we were simply trying to rescue. They knew who I was. They would run toward me when they saw me, and they had even developed some very strong opinions of their own. It turns out groundhogs can be incredibly picky eaters. One day, they might absolutely love a certain vegetable. The next day, they would look at it as if they had never seen it before in their lives. If the vegetables were not fresh enough, they simply refused to eat them. Give them a slightly wilted piece of lettuce, and they might drop it straight onto the ground and stare at me like I had personally offended them. They can be stubborn enough to drive me crazy sometimes. But then I see the three of them curled up together at night, and everything suddenly feels peaceful again. They eat together, sleep together, and spend most of their time side by side. Even when food is right in front of them, they rarely fight over it. They simply share whatever is there. Watching the way they cared for one another, I sometimes forget that their story began in a little nest where they lost both their mother and one of their siblings. But eventually, we learned there was a bigger problem. Because they had been raised by humans from such a young age, the three groundhogs no longer responded to the world the way wild groundhogs normally would. They had become too comfortable around people and too dependent on human care. Their chances of surviving completely on their own in the wild were very low. So they stayed. And honestly, I am glad they did. Over the years, Princess, Biggy, and Scar stopped feeling like three rescued animals we were simply taking care of. They became part of our family. Their routines became part of ours. Their funny little personalities became things we looked forward to every day. And if one day I walked outside and could no longer hear them running around the yard, I think the whole house would feel strangely quiet. We have simply gotten used to having our three little groundhogs around, and I cannot imagine our lives without them.
It's crazy they could stand up